to the Dancing Bear Enlightenment Academy Holistic Transformation Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Beverly, and today we have a wonderful guest speaker, Andrea Alexander. She is the anxiety expert and mindset coach. Having experienced her own healing and recovery, Andrea emphasizes the importance of remembering and acknowledging past experiences. She understands that by speaking openly about what happened, she can transcend their inner darkness and begin the healing process. Today, she will talk about, do you love how you feel? Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you, Beverly. I appreciate your time with me today.
Well, we enjoy talking to you. I always enjoy these wonderful speakers that come on because you all have such wonderful gifts to share. So you have a transformational story for us, right? That your own
Yes.
experience with healing and recovery. Tell us about that.
Yes, I do. So when I was a young girl, I just remember I wasn't happy. And my mother would ask me all the time, "What's wrong with you, Andrea?" I'm like, "I don't know, Mother." And I got into eating and food and got really heavy, and just I was a miserable child, and lots of self-sabotaging behaviors as I went through my teens and into my 20s, not understanding why I felt the way that I feel. And when I was about 20 years old and just recently just graduated from college, my dad had shared some self-meditation stuff with me that I was fascinated by. And I was doing a self-hypnosis one afternoon, completely relaxed, like dozing in my consciousness, having a grand old time. And suddenly I sat bolt right up because something scared me so bad. And I didn't know what it was. There was no memory of it. It was just a feeling experience. And it was in that moment that I knew there was nothing wrong with me, that something had happened to me. And so what became ensued over the next 25 plus years was the belief that if I could figure out what it was, that I could fix whatever it was so I could change the way that I felt, because I didn't like the way I felt. And so lots of therapy, lots of talk therapy, in and out of different therapists. Therapists would say, I knew there was trauma in there. I just didn't have any memories. And so, I even had a therapist one time tell me, "Thank God you don't remember."
Oh.
And it was horrifying because I believed that if I could remember, I could fix it. And then finally, I ended up with a woman who did EMDR. And I was sharing a story with her about my walls. My walls had always been very close to my body. And when I was sharing this story with her, I realized my hands were completely outstretched.
Oh.
I said, "That's interesting." And she said, "What?" I said, "My walls have always been really close. And now they're arm's length." And she said, "Are you keeping something out or are you keeping something in?" And I said, "I don't know." And so I chose to be with that. And then,
which way were your hands pointed?
my hands were way out in front of me.
You were keeping something out.
I was keeping, and yes. And so I had this really in-depth conversation with my mother because I had this daddy stuff that would come up, and I was scared to look if I believed that it was my father. I was not willing at that stage.
Yeah.
And we both concluded that there was no signals or signs that would point in that direction. So I was willing to go into the memories, and I started doing some inner child stuff with this woman, and the memories started coming. And I was like, "Only as much as I require, please," because it was mortifying. And so I did remember several of the things that happened, and okay, now I know. And I thought, okay, now I can fix it. Well, it got awful because I had suppressed I was 48 years of suppressing feeling.
Yeah.
And my body felt so filled full of bees. I buzzed and hummed. My skin crawled.
Wow.
and I could barely move. And so for 2 years, I pretty much lived in my house. My boss was so understanding. My mother came and sat with me. My dad went to therapy with me. I was so frigging supported. It was glorious in all that it could be, but I couldn't move. I was having 10 to 15 panic attacks a day. I was living on Valium, anti-anxiety medication, antidepressants, and I would try to work. And I literally would put my computer on the corner of my sofa, this beautiful red leather sofa, and I called it my corner office. And it's where I functioned and lived for 2 years. And just waves of stuff would come over me, and my doctors would tell me, you're depressed, you're anxious. I'm like, I don't know. I don't like how I feel. I don't like how I feel. I can't stand how I feel, is what I kept saying. And I didn't have any consciousness at that stage. I didn't have any awareness. I didn't know. And so finally things kind of began to get better. And I remember it was a Sunday morning, and I was sitting in a chair in my home, working. It was 7 a.m. and I'd been working for 3 hours on Sunday. And I'm like, there's got to be more to life than this. And that was my call. And I had a class show up in my email thread called Sacred Body Language Translation. And I had done a lot of, Louise Hay really resonated for me with her dis-ease and body. And I'd been playing in a lot of things with translating what the body stuff meant, and her book with Robert Holden that she did. And so I went to this class thinking, it's got to be something along those lines. And it's a room full of about 40 women, and nobody can talk about how they feel. Not one woman can easily express sadness, grief, anger, frustration. And the coaches are talking about our words create our reality, that the subconscious mind, 95% of everything is a pattern or a limiting belief, that our body speaks to us in symptoms because it's the only language that it knows. And I thought, this is weird and I love it. And they called and asked for a volunteer, and I raised my hand, and she said, what hurts? I said, my thumb. And she said, how long is it? She said, left hand or right hand? I said, right hand. And she said, how long? I said, well, it started when I was in college, and I'm in my 50s, so 30 years. And she said, say after me, I willingly let go. And she said, now repeat it again. And she kind of built these affirmation decrees based on my words and some of the other things that she asked me. And I had this experience where I got really emotional and felt really sad. And then my voice just almost completely dissipated. I could barely speak through the tears. And then something shifted, and this strength came in. Wow. And I owned the experience, and I willingly let go. God is the only power in me, through me, and around me that touches and lets me let go. I surrender. And then in that moment, the pain in my thumb completely dissipated. And so while I didn't understand it, I knew there was something in it for me. And I saw my mom the next morning. She goes, how was your class? She was so excited. I went and did something on a weeknight, because it'd been over 2 years since I did anything weird, out of the norm. And I said, I don't know what this is. I said, but it's very important work. And I just got real busy trying to understand what body language was and how my body speaks to me. And I got the book, I bought the audio, I bought the video, I read, and I took myself as far as I could, until I could go no further. And then I hired a coach. And I had the experience of becoming aware of what was going on, and that I could choose to feel and be something different than what I was experiencing. And so I began to have these miracles of my power, my body shifting, the pain, the nerve pain that used to run from my toes up into my groin, that was literally felt like electric shocks of light that I was imagining was pain, is really my body asking me to let go and move forward. It's light. And when I understood that my body had been speaking to me and I didn't know how to listen.
You
And
know
so
what she did for you, right?
she woke me up, and then
On your thumb, attention, intention. Remember? That's the secret
yes.
to everything. Attention, intention.
And so what I have learned how to do is to be aware of what I feel. And most people, we've all got some kind of experience where we've experienced childhood wounds, trauma that created limiting beliefs that stayed. We've been victims, we've blamed others, and we've suppressed love to the degree that is beyond our known, because we've been so afraid to let love in, to let love touch us. And afraid to feel, because it hurts to feel, as if feeling is going to kill us. And so I have learned through time to love what I feel, no matter what it is, and that those feelings can move through me in 30 to 90 seconds when I will love what it is. And the question one of my favorite things to say is, people go, well, how do you love what you feel? I remember the first time somebody said, well, you love your anger, Andrea. And I'm like, what? So counterintuitive. It's where but what we resist persists. And so all I was required to do to love my anger is to say, hello, anger, I can love you too. And that's enough.
Well, it's
And
just a warning for you. Pay attention.
yes. Well, but
What is
so
that?
many of
Okay.
us, I remember my coach, she goes, who taught you it was okay to feel? I'm like, nobody. My mother didn't know how. My grandparents didn't know how. My dad didn't know. None of us knew how to feel. And so it was a completely foreign concept. And we were denying ourselves feeling what we were feeling, making it wrong, keeping it in us, which is stuck energy that makes sickness. And so what I have learned to do is to acknowledge what I feel and do my best to love it moment to moment, whatever it may be, so that it moves through me. Because once we have an awareness of whatever it is where we put light on it, and nothing but love lives in the light.
Very, very true. So that's why you now help people with their feelings. How do you work with people?
So I do I do one-to-one coaching, and I have clients, and then I also have a business partner, and we do classes. And then we also do women's retreats. And so the one-to-one is, I do stuff in person and online. And the majority of the people coming to me are women who have had similar experiences, sexual trauma. And so we talk about what is at the root of that. And while it may be sexual trauma, there's something else in there where most people are remembering it's secure to stay in their body. We're learning to reparent ourselves, reparent our feelings, and remember how secure we can be at home in our own bodies, because we've had the limiting beliefs, we've had the collective consciousness telling us that we're not safe, that women have to be this way or men have to be this way. And we've played that victim for so long that what I support them in doing is changing the lens of how they feel about their experience, because there is something in that for them. So what shifted for me was, once I began to do this work, I realized that I get to be a voice for women who have either not remembered or not said that there is something on the other side of this. So there's sexual trauma in my family, in my grandmother. So I get to be a voice for women and men who'd yet to speak up. I'm the evidence of what we can do. And so that began for me, my ability to, there's a purpose behind what happened. It doesn't change it. It doesn't take away anything. And because I had a purpose behind it, I began to be able to forgive him and me, over time. And then that moved me into all the guilt and the shame. So why did I have so much guilt and shame? Why did I feel so dirty and all of those things? And the reason for all of my guilt and shame was so I can be with men and women, because they're experiencing that they too can move through this. And we just, and everything comes in layers. And I've had the experience now of seeing my uncle on the other side, standing in the light with all my pawpaws. There's no charge left in that for me any longer. And that's the healing. And it's how we create healing, is by changing the lens of the experience so that we can find in it the gold that we're here to harvest from it. Because we're all here. We're all on there. We have an agreement. When we came in, our soul said, I'm going to remember something. I'm here for a specific reason. And mine was, remember your purity, Andrea. And we believe that because we've been soiled, or believed we were soiled, or that our choices were taken away, and that we are no longer pure and innocent. And it's
we're not
false.
worthy. Yeah.
So it's been a reclamation for me and my family to do this work, to remember the purity and the innocence in the truth of who I am, not some wadded up, spit out, chewed up dollar bill. Because even that wadded up, spit out, chewed up dollar bill still has the exact same value.
Yep.
And so I do that work with my clients, and the way that I hear I'm a code, break code. And usually the first 3 words that somebody says is the truth of what's acting in the subconscious. So I got on a call with the client the other day, and she goes, God dang, it's been a rough week. And I'm like, what's familiar about rough? And where's the first memory? And so that stuff begins to come out, and we get down to the root of it, and we just collapse the belief. What's the new feeling? And one of the things I believe very strongly in, and one of the things I believe is significantly different about what I do in comparison to other coaches, is that for everything, every perceived or believed in feeling, the shame, the guilt, the anger, the resentment, the apathy, it has a partner. And so there's the left side of the feeling scale, which is the believed in, what we're claiming, the current reality. And then there's the truth of what we're here. So fear into faith, purity into innocence, guilt and shame into purity, guilt into innocence, unconscious into awake and aware, apathy into remembering pleasure and joy and life and love. So what I do is I create a trade agreement with the ego, so that we're not giving up something with nothing in return. And it gives us a light and a beacon for which to travel. Is it painful, or is it pleasure returning? We get to qualify what that is. And so that's
Nice.
what I do.
Cool.
Amazing. I love what I do. It's so fun to wake people up and see them turn on and just take off the shackles, because I know what it feels like to wear them.
Yeah. So you have a free gift for people. You want to talk about that?
I do. I would love to connect with anyone who chooses to connect with me and do a free gift of a discovery call. And you are welcome to connect with me through HTTP, is it ://heal, HEAL.me/AKA anxiety coach. And I will gift you an hour of time and space, and we can talk about what's happening for you and what's going on in your life, and support you with what your codes are and what some of your greater mission is, and what you're here to reclaim and repurpose in your life.
So for those of you on YouTube, I'll have the link down below. And if you're listening to the podcast, it's heal.me/AKA anxiety coach, all one word. And that sounds like a great gift, a free hour. Wow.
Thank you.
So do you have any closing remarks for the audience?
there is no shame in what happened. It's just something that you've believed. And what we repress will persist. And so when you are willing to say what happened is when you begin to set yourself free. And so to thy own self be true. And there is hope. There is hope floats. There is light. There is love. And I'm happy to support you in remembering your own.
Very nice. Well, thank you for being our guest. And if you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe and click the little bell and leave a comment. We love comments, and I respond to all comments. So thank you all for joining us. And remember to be the light you want to see in the world.
Yes.